CB Tech Stuff. I present to you my next project. This is something you don't see every day. That is something you definitely don't see every day. This is my buddy's old compaq Presarection. This was his PC prior to me giving him Craig. According to his wife, he had this PC when they got married. So this PC is pretty old. This thing probably came out in like maybe 2010 at the newest. Yeah, it's even still got the sticker on it. Compaq Presarection CQ5210F PC. It's got the Athlon 2 X2 215 dual core, Windows 7 64-bit, 3 gigabytes of RAM, a 500 gigabyte Seagate 7200 RPM hard drive. That has been removed. That is actually now in Craig. I took it out and put it in Craig because I took my Blu-ray drive out of Craig and put it in Beige Billy. It's even still got the old Windows 7 activation code on it. I'm torn. I really don't want to. I told him I would format the hard drive just in case there's anything left over on there. I was going to put Linux on here, but I'm not sure how well Linux is going to play with this thing. Compaq is owned by HP. At this point, it was already bought up by HP, so don't know how well it's going to work. I was going to try to put Hive OS on this thing. This is going to be the basis for a crypto mining rig. I'm probably going to build a frame around it, or that sits on top of it to actually hold the GPUs. Maybe build like a shelf system where this sits on its side on the bottom. And I'm going to have splitters on the PCI ports. I'm also going to probably put a Wi-Fi dongle on this thing. It's got a 250 watt power supply, which that's fine for just powering the onboard graphics and the CPU, motherboard themselves, but for the GPUs, that's not going to work. I'm probably going to have a separate power supply entirely for the GPUs. I was afraid of this right here. Okay. I'm going to need a VGA adapter. I should have got one of his old monitors too. I might go back and get one of those, but first thing I need to do is clean this thing out and make sure it still boots. It booted last time, but it was extremely slow. I mean, this thing on the Windows 7. Just to get it booted, I might just put Linux Mint on it. Maybe hook up one of my other old hard drives to it. Alright, let's open it up and take a look inside. Panel just pops off. It's pretty clean, except for the dust bunnies that I built up in here. The thing has been used in over a year. Here's the hard drive. It's a Seagate 7200 RPM Barracuda. That's the stuff for the front USB panel. It's got this old modem here. It's a Chinese-made modem. I can't really see the specs on this thing. It's an old Anatel. It's probably like a 64K modem. The old dial-up modems. That's gonna get taken out. I'm not using that again. It's probably got USB 2.0. It's got an old light on. 250 watt power supply, which I am skeptical about using. It's full of dust too. Probably gonna clean this out with my dad's air compressor and then suck it out with a vacuum cleaner. Probably just gonna pull everything out of here and clean the case. I was wanting to keep the case together and just run wires out of it, but I don't know. The board's in okay. The main thing I really wanted out of this thing was the board anyway. The board and the CPU, plus it's got onboard graphics. I have no idea what onboard graphics it has, as I do not see the chipset for it. RAM sticks here. Ooh, they're dusty. 1 gig Samsung stick and a 2 gig Samsung stick. I have no idea what the max RAM support on this thing is. I would assume it's probably no more than 4 gigs. As opposed to using a full 24-pin connector, it only uses a 20-pin. And it's got a 4-pin to the CPU. Looks like it uses regular 3-pin fan connectors. There's a lot of dirt under that fan. Got an aluminum cooler. It's got one PCI Express 16. Looks like 2.0. PCI X1, X2, which the modem is hooked up to, and that's got a PCI 1. Or just a plain PCI slot, which you don't see too many of anymore. I can use the 4 of those, I think, to hook up multiple GPUs if I get the right adapters from eBay or whatnot. It's also got what looks like, oh, that's not a USB 3 like I thought it was. That's a floppy. I'm gonna have to look at the specs on this thing. According to Google, This thing had NVIDIA 6150 SE integrated graphics, which had a grand total of 256 megabytes of VRAM, so a quarter gigabyte. That puts it right on par with like the HD Radeon, I think 4000 series. So yeah, this thing old. This thing was right at the transition of like XP Vista to Windows 7. So by today's standards, pretty weak, and I'm surprised he had this thing running as long as it did. I mean, hell, his wife was playing The Sims on it for a while. I could barely run that though. I'm gonna have to get a cord, probably gonna get a keyboard, probably gonna get a wireless dongle for this thing. All that fun mess. I might put an SSD in this thing, I don't know. It depends on how good the hard drive is that's in this thing. If it's fine, I'll just leave it. But like I said, I'm gonna use this as the basis for a GPU mining rig. Back on the Presario. Anyway, I took this thing outside, took it apart, sprayed it out with the air compressor. It's a lot cleaner now. I put new thermal paste between the heatsink and the CPU, as well as on the integrated graphics chip. The thermal pad on there was about gone. Got everything wired back up, cleaned off the RAM chips with some alcohol, cleaned off all the old thermal paste with some alcohol, and got it all put back together and wired back up. I'm gonna see if it'll at least turn on. I thought I had a VGA cable to test it with, but I don't. I think I gave it to my friend. I'll have to see if he has an extra one next time I go over to his place. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to order one. Anyway, let's get this thing plugged in and see if it'll at least turn on. Alright, I ran a cord over to the nearest outlet. It's got green light. That's good. I do like the power buttons right here on the side, so... Well, it's on, but the heatsink fan sounds terrible. Power supply fan is barely going. I did find out that this board will support a CPU and RAM upgrade, though, up to DDR3 1333. Even though it came with DDR2 from the factory, and it will support, I forget what model CPUs, but currently it's got the stock, I think the Athlon X2. It's either 512 or 215. That heatsink fan is barely turning. Maybe if I turned it up on its side. Still not much better. While it's on, I took out the little modem chip. It's got a spot for, looks like an 80mm fan. If I wanted to put one there, I probably won't. But like I said, I'm gonna have to test it later with the display after I get a VGA cable. So that's all for today. Today is April the 5th. I went back to my friend's house and got his old computer monitor, as well as the mouse and keyboard that he had for this thing. Get them all plugged in, and let's see if I can get a video signal out on this thing. Alright, so I had to reset the CMOS, but I finally got it to boot into the BIOS screen at least. Last BIOS version was 2009. I don't know if this is going to be able to boot from USB. At least we know the onboard graphics work. Let's see if the Windows 7 is still good on this thing. We'll like get to the login screen. Look at that. Alright, so I'm currently trying to install Linux Lubuntu, or Lubuntu, yeah, Lubuntu 20.10 Groovy Gorilla. I feel like Lubuntu is going to perform on this the best, at least until I upgrade this to 4 gigabytes of RAM, and maybe a quad-core CPU. Anyway, it does not support USB boot, so I'm using the UNet booting method that I just learned about. Huh, I was wrong. Apparently it does support booting from a boot drive, but okay, here we go. Oh, well, okay, it's going. Alright, so it is taking forever to load. I hope there's not an issue with the hard drive. If there is, I'll have to go with plan B and go with maybe booting an SSD, or just going ahead and making a boot drive. Alright, so I went back and while it was loading up, and it finally loaded up, I'm going through the install process on Lubuntu itself to where to install it on the hard drive. It's working on it now. I may have to repartition the hard drive later because it's a little bit confusing on here versus on Windows. Probably would have been a lot easier if I had just taken out the hard drive and formatted it. Anyway, I'm going to let it install. It's probably going to take a while. It's unpacking everything. Update on the mining rig project, Presarection. Not much. Obviously, I haven't put it together yet. This is the Wi-Fi adapter I went with, the Panda Wireless. I chose it because it is Linux compatible. I haven't tested it yet. In here is it's the XT Zinti 4-way splitter. Actually came faster than I thought, along with my risers. Just a 6-pack of the mid-cell risers. It was like 53 bucks. I got a power supply ordered. I picked up a used Cooler Master 850 from eBay. I'm having a very hard time getting graphics cards because they are through the roof as far as price goes. I can't find them any cheaper than $250, and some of them are going up to $500. And that's just on the RX 580s and the GTX 1060s. It's insane. It's probably going to be that way until either A, the silicon shortage ends, which who knows when that's going to be. B, ETH drops out, which is probably going to be in the next probably, I'd give it 8 months. We'll just have to wait and see. Quick update on the mining rig. My first 2 GPUs have arrived today from the old eBay. Well, this one's an XFX RX 474GB. Don't know what specific model it is. They didn't come with the original box, but at least it shipped well preserved, while the other one straight up shipped it in the original box and slapped a shipping label on it. I don't know if that's just lazy or genius. This one's an Asus Strix, that one's an XFX. Still got all the promo shit with it too. Both have definitely been used. Other than the fans, the plastic shrouds are very similar. I don't really care for the RGB. This one has no guard on the back. Why is that? That was not in the description at all. That'd be okay. Certainly annoying. And they both take a single 6-pin, looks like. That's 2 cards out of the planned 6. Alright, today I am back. Today I'm going to try to kind of pre-assemble the mining rig. I got my monitor, my mouse and keyboard out. Got this VGA to DVI adapter. Of course, got the compaq. It might need a light dusting. It's been sitting in my room for a few weeks since the last time I worked on it. I do have a can of air too, I can hook up to it. And in this chair right here, I've got a bunch of stuff. And this just showed up the other day. This is a triple ATX power supply splitter, more or less. Specifically made for coin mining, so I can hook multiple ATX power supplies together. I was leaning towards getting a server power supply for the system. Up until a couple days ago, I was going to sell my other power supply, which is in here. I'll show that in a minute. But the only downside of that is server power supplies put out a lot of heat, and they are loud, and this thing is probably going in my room in that corner right there by my door after I clean it all out. Or it's going to stay up here, I don't know yet. So, for now, I'm probably going to get this thing running with the 2 cards I have. And go from there, and maybe just see if I can snag some more ATX power supplies on the cheap. Just since they're quieter and easier to get. Or easier to hook up. With server power supply, I would have to get a kit from Parallel Miner to hook that all up. Alright, I got pretty much everything out of its packaging. And this is the power supply I picked up off eBay as well. I think I paid like 64 bucks for it. It is a Cooler Master, I think it's called a Real Power Pro or something like that. Standard 80 plus rating, so it's not a gold or anything like that. That kind of concerns me a little bit, but otherwise it looks new. There's some very light scratches on this, but the case looks very nice. It did not come with a cord, but I get an extra one. I'm not sure if this thing's even in warranty. It is also not modular at all, which kind of sucks. At least it's got plenty of cords. I just sorted these out. It's got 5 different PCI connections. I think it's got 2 8-pin, and then the rest are split into 6 and 8-pin. And I can run these. Oh, these are 6-pin too, but they're also Molex. If I have to, I can get adapters from Parallel Miner. I think I can make these work for now. I am planning on keeping the stock light on 250 watt and just using that to run the motherboard, hard drive, and the CPU, and maybe some fans. As far as fans go, I haven't bought any yet. I was going to buy a 10-pack of the Apevia ones that they have on Amazon. For now, I got my old Ravencoin 140mm that used to be in my PC, which I recently upgraded to a Noctua. Here's what I came up with. It's not pretty by any means. It'll work. So far, I tested the power supply with the splitter, and it works. It comes on, fan works. That fan I actually have tied to a splitter, a Noctua splitter that I had, and tied to the CPU chassis header, or well, the CPU fan, not the CPU chassis. The chassis fan header is surrounded by capacitors, and because this thing's got a 4-port PWM instead of a 3-port connector on it, it doesn't fit, so I had to go with the splitter. So yeah, I had to zip tie the wires around. I figured out that apparently the space between these 8-port and 6-port connectors on 2 of these wires too short to go between the riser and the port. So it's got 4 cords in all, so I'm using 4 in each. I guess if I get any more GPUs, I'll have to get splitters for the 8-port connectors. And there's 2 more just straight 8-port connectors. I think. At least one. I think it's just one. But I'm probably going to get another power supply anyway. I'm probably going to get a better one. Unless I just go with the server power supplies later down the road. This is all temporary now. If I get more GPUs, I'll either A, build a bigger rack, or I'll just get an actual mining rig rack and take everything out of the chassis here. Hard drive and all. As far as the hard drive, I may just have to either A, run everything off of a USB drive, or B, clone every clone, or just get a cheap SSD to put in here. Probably have to be a 500 gig or smaller though, because thanks to Chia miners, getting anything 1 terabyte and above is proving to be about as difficult as getting a GPU. Thank God they have not figured out a way to mine with power supplies yet. Anyway, I'm about to fire this thing up and see whether or not I need to change any of the graphics settings. It's plugged into the VGA port on the motherboard. It's got onboard NVIDIA graphics, so fire in the hole. Look at that. Look at that. They light up. Dang, that XFX one is bright. I wonder if there's a way to disable those LEDs. Fan in there is spinning like it should. I just used some scrap wood I had laying around outside to make that. I was afraid of that. It's trying to output display to the GPUs, I think. And the power is flashing on the XFX card. I'm not sure if that's good or not. I'll get back to you. Finally, been fighting with the drivers on this thing for nearly 3 hours now, as well as trying to figure out how to actually launch the miner on Linux, but behold, it's alternating around a total of 16 megahash. And that's on compaq and Team Red Miner, running in the Lubuntu Groovy Gorilla and the compaq Presarection. These LEDs are going to get annoying though. I need to figure out how to turn off the lights on this thing. You know, I think I'm going to leave it right here for a while since the air conditioner's right there. It would help circulate the air a little bit better. I'm tempted to turn it around. I might do that. It'll be fine. But for now, this'll work. I am running Team Red Miner, mining to 2 miners. I kind of figured Team Red Miner would be the best way to go, if not NB Miner. I'll get that downloaded as a backup. We mining now, boys. We mining now. So now I've got me a dedicated Ravencoin rig. Yeah, I'm getting a pretty steady 8 megahash a piece on these. Which one's GPU 0 though? That's what I can't figure out. If I remember right, the XFX is GPU 0, but the Asus is GPU 1. Phase 2, get more cards.